What's going on, guys? Vulkan here, and today we have some brand new information on Nightingale. So, for those of you who are kind of out of the loop, Nightingale is a shared world survival game that was announced back at the Game Awards last week. Now, what is a shared world survival game? So there's a lot of kind of buzzwords in there. You know, shared worlds are kind of the new thing, right? They're not quite an MMO, but they're not quite single player or co-op. They kind of live in between. So you'll see players out there running around doing their stuff, and you can party up with them and all of that. So Nightingale is going that direction. We will see other players outside of our party in the world inhabiting different areas. Now, they did confirm a few things in this article. They talked about some new systems that we didn't get to hear about during the trailer, because as they mentioned in the article, which by the way is linked in the description below, it's really good. But they talked about how from the gameplay trailer, we didn't really get to see a lot of gameplay. We got to see kind of, an inkling of what the world is, a little bit of the actual base building and estate building and things like that. They also talked about during the trailer, there was a point where they were handing something to a giant, and that was resolving a conflict. And then you saw another point where that same giant was just rampaging through their city and just destroying everything. So they talked about how there's multiple ways to solve conflicts, and that's the adventure system packed into Nightingale. So you can either go the peaceful route and say, hey, here's this, thing, and let's complete this quest and you'll leave us alone. Or you can say, no, I'm not going to give you that thing. And next thing you know, they're attacking you and you have a battle on your hands. So not everything's going to be like that, but they did talk a little bit about how everything will have a consequence. So maybe taking the peaceful route with those giants will end up having another faction or another individual upset with you and then attack your base. Who knows? But you can't do, I'm assuming, peaceful passive solution each and every time, because then there wouldn't be any combat in the game and it would kind of be a mess. So let's go through some of the things that former BioWare dev Aaron Flynn, who's the mind behind Nightingale, talked about in this interview. So, quote, over the past couple years, we just found all of these new opportunities to take the game and then new places that we could go, and they seem to resonate with the world that we're building and some of the fundamental choices that we've made early on, like create a world that's highly interactive and really empowers players to do what they want. So you're talking about somebody who came from the, Mass Effect IP, and we're building a world that players are going to be able to interact with everything and empower the player to do what they want, go where they want. So to me, this really kind of feels like a new world style experience where you want to interact with the tree, with the rock, with the bush, you can do that type of stuff. If you want to go to that mountain over there, you can do that. If you want to build a base here instead of on that side of the world, you can do that. So I'm very curious to see how far you can go and what barriers they've put up. But for now, it seems like that's a big kind of point of context that they want to have out there, is a highly interactive world that empowers players to do what they want to do. Now, we saw it from the trailer, right? We saw kind of the Victorian outfits and all of that fun stuff, and they did confirm it's set just before the turn of the 19th century in an alternate Victorian world. Now, in this world, magic has existed for hundreds of years, and this magic has allowed humanity to build a network of portals to different realms. Basically, Victorian stargates is the way they coined it, and these other fantasy realms have all kinds of different adventures and dangers and all of that fun stuff. Now, they go into this a little bit. They say humanity apparently gained access to magic from the Fae, who are mysterious mythical beings who recently turned up again after a long absence. It was also at this time that humanity's portal network suddenly collapsed, leaving players, known as realm walkers, dispersed in far-off places struggling to survive. So this is kind of the core or the root of the story, right? Because we know that we were going out looking at all these different realms, and then suddenly we were stranded. So it looks like the Fae showed back up, our portals shut off. Maybe they took their magic back because we were abusing it. Not entirely sure. But what we do know is that outside of survival, we need to get back to our city of Nightingale, which is the center of magic and is kind of the nexus of all of these portals coming together. They said to do that, you need to venture forth through the remaining portals, battle eldritch horrors, gather loot, and build yourself back up again. Quote, when you decide to go exploring in these realms, you get to make choices about how you want to tackle the adventures and how you want to participate in them. And this is what Flynn's talking about for the game's adventure system. And this is him referencing the giant that we talked about a little bit earlier, right? It's the dichotomy of the world where a giant is bending down to receive an offering from players instead of going and rampaging through their community and destroying everything. And he did confirm different outcomes, and each decision has different consequences. And as you're going through adventuring, doing all of these things, right? You're exploring these different realms. There are a ton of resources you're going to be able to find, gather, craft, all of that. And you're going to take all of these and pour them back into upgrading your character. We do not know what this looks like. They just mentioned that we can put them into our character, or we can build bases across various maps and terrains using things like estates and farms. And we did get confirmation on some big ticket items, guys. So there will be no PvP in the game at all. You can play solo or with other people. There is no word yet on team or party sizes. NPCs will be in the game, but they will not be fighting alongside you. Instead, you'll talk to them for stories and quests. And then he goes to talk about a little bit more when it comes to upgrading your character and interacting with the world. He talked about how things are going to look similar, yet a little bit different. You know, like an axe, you'll be able to tell it's an axe, but they'll have a little kind of uniqueness about it. And he was talking about this idea of a magic system that goes into the game where everything's kind of layered in this magic. And he didn't go into detail about it, but just kind of going off of our imagination here, we can think of things like, okay, cool effects, or, you know, being able to swing an axe and you hit one thing and chain lightning comes out and hits multiple things. Because remember, this is a world built in magic where it's been ingrained for hundreds of years. So harnessing that power, infusing it with the things that we have today, and being able to make weapons more deadly, tools more useful, and maybe even having defenses against certain elements or certain other magic types on our estates and our farms. And then they also went through and confirmed there is no word yet on a release date. However, more players will be invited to try Nightingale next year in 2022 on PC as the team seeks to gather more feedback and work on more of its magic. So like I said, very good article. You know, we learned a lot. It's kind of funny. This isn't a whole long article, but there's a lot that you can really extrapolate out of it, which I really like. And this game is really kind of shaping up to be a really cool one. I really like the shared world aspect where you can see other players and other people out and about. But then on top of that, right, I really like that they're focusing on a time period that we don't typically see outside of like Van Helsing, you know, and things like that. So I really like the Victorian thing, but there's going to be a lot of questions that need to be answered, especially as we learn more about it. So everybody, I want to hear from you in the comment section below. What do you think so far about Nightingale? Let's talk about it. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Vulkan, and I'll talk to you next time.
Sound off one and all, everybody. Don't take what you openly handed. Reach up and grab the world by the hand and watch what comes along.